The staffer for former Greens Senator Larissa Waters denied she was a dual Canadian citizen 14 months before she quit Parliament in dramatic circumstances. It has been claimed the Australian Greens lost their second $200,000-a-year senator in less than a week on Tuesday afternoon when Ms. Waters announced she had just discovered she was still officially Canadian. The staffer for the former lawyer, who turned 40 in February, denied she was a dual citizen when Queensland blogger Tony Magrathea contacted her office in May 2016. He claims scroll down for video greened. Larissa Waters fought back tears as she announced her resignation from the Senate. The staffer to Larissa Waters told blogger Tony Magrathea in May 2016 her boss wasn't Canadian. According to this message, Larissa Waters' office, pictured with her staff in Canberra, maintained she only had Australian citizenship. The senator's staff member, Catherine Gardner, is believed to have tweeted back to him, "Hi Tony, Senator Waters was born in Canada but has never been a Canadian citizen." Chong, the ratings analyst who ran as a One Nation candidate in Western Australia earlier this year, has looked into renouncing his dual Malaysian citizenship so he can run as a federal candidate. The 44-year-old Perth businessman said Ms. Waters could simply have visited a Canadian consulate office in Australia to renounce her dual citizenship. She would only have taken about 5 minutes to ring the Canadian consul to check that she's still on the register, and she could have done that back then when members of the public were alerting her to it, he told Daily Mail Australia on Wednesday. Malaysian-born former One Nation candidate Chong says Larissa Waters could have visited a Canadian consulate and waited 5 minutes for an answer. Perth ratings analyst Chong called on Larissa Waters to declare her citizenship days before she resigned from Parliament for having an official allegiance to Canada. "You can go to any consulate. It's just for Commonwealth countries. If you think you could be a citizen, especially if you have a birth certificate, you go in there and ask them, 'Look, am I still a citizen?' And they can tell you if you are still on the books." Mr. Chong challenged Ms. Waters to come clean on her Canadian citizenship on Saturday, 3 days before she resigned from Parliament, where she had illegitimately been a Greens senator for Queensland since July 2011 on an annual $200,000 salary. When he received no reply on Twitter, he appealed on Monday for immigration lawyers to look into her citizenship. She resigned the next day, becoming the second Greens senator and co-deputy leader to quit Parliament in less than a week. One Nation learned a painful lesson after the 1998 federal election when Heather Hill, a dual British citizen, was elected as a senator for Queensland only to be declared invalid by the High Court in June 1999. The party has since required every federal candidate to declare they aren't a dual citizen. 18 years later, Ms. Waters has resigned as a senator for Queensland for also breaching Section 44 of the Constitution, only days after her Greens Senate colleague Scott Lovelam quit for being a dual New Zealand citizen. Ms. Waters had moved from Canada to Australia when she was 11 months old. "It's with great sadness I have discovered I am a dual citizen and I will be forced to stand down," she told reporters in her home city of Brisbane on Tuesday, fighting back tears. She apologized to her party and vowed to hold her head up high amid the embarrassing revelation. The Greens co-deputy leader is seen arriving with her partner Jeremy Gates and their daughter Alia Joy to make the shock announcement. She arrives with her partner and their daughter, flanked by Greens Brisbane City Councillor Jonathan Sri. "I left Canada as a baby and I had no idea I was a Canadian citizen. It was an honest mistake and I am deeply apologetic," she said. She has never returned to Canada but she remained a citizen. Senator Waters said her parents told her she had until the age of 21 to actively seek Canadian citizenship. "At 21, I chose not to seek dual citizenship, and I have never even visited Canada since leaving at 11 months old," she said in a statement. However, after Scott Ludlam's shock discovery, "I immediately sought legal advice, and was devastated to learn that because of 70-year-old Canadian laws I had been a dual citizen from birth, and that Canadian law changed a week after I was born and required me to have actively renounced Canadian citizenship. I left Canada as a baby and I had no idea I was a Canadian citizen. It was an honest mistake and I am deeply apologetic," she said. Senator Waters said her parents told her she had until the age of 21 to actively seek Canadian citizenship. "It's with great sadness I have discovered I am a dual citizen and I will be forced to stand down," she said. With Greens councillor Jonathan Sri by her side, Senator Waters said she had not renounced her citizenship because she was unaware she was a dual citizen. "This is something that I should have sought advice on when I first nominated for the Senate in 2007. and I take full responsibility for this grave mistake and oversight. She said, I am deeply sorry for the impact that it will have. Greens leader Richard Di Natale was gutted by the announcement, reiterating it was an innocent mistake. Larissa acted quickly, as soon as she knew about it, and she has paid the high price for this. He said Senator Waters would be welcomed back to Parliament with open arms if she decided to stand for re-election. Senator Di Natale said in the meantime, he confirmed the party's co-conveners will conduct a thorough root and branch review to make sure it never happens again. It was a stuff-up, he said. Senator Waters said the party will now review its processes but stressed the Greens weren't to blame. Senator Larissa Waters' partner Jeremy Gates and their daughter Alia Joy watch her as she announces her resignation. Senator Waters had not renounced her citizenship because she was unaware she was a dual citizen. Senator Waters said the party will now review its processes but stressed the Greens weren't to blame. The matter will be referred to the High Court, sitting as the Court of Disputed Returns, which will likely order a recount of the 2016 election ballot papers. Former Senator and Democrats leader Andrew Bartlett is set to take her place in the Senate, having been second on the Greens ticket in last year's double-dissolution election. Mr. Bartlett sat in Parliament from 1997 to 2008. He quit as Democrats leader in 2003 after female Liberal Senator Jeannie Ferris claimed he had injured her arm during an altercation at Parliament House over an allegation he had stolen wine from a Liberal Party Christmas function. Mr. Bartlett is a dear friend of mine, a wonderful human being and an excellent politician, Senator Waters said. The party's co-deputy leader, who is from Queensland but was born in Canada, made the shock announcement on Tuesday afternoon. Fighting back tears, she apologized to her party and vowed to hold her head up high amid the embarrassing revelation. Pictured, she kisses her daughter in the Senate chamber at Parliament House. Australian Greens Senator Scott Loveland announced his resignation over his dual citizenship with New Zealand last week. I apologize unreservedly for this mistake, Scott Loveland pictured said in a statement last week. The announcement follows the resignation of West Australian Greens Senator Scott Loveland last week when it was discovered he held dual citizenship with New Zealand. Senator Loveland labeled it a ridiculous oversight. I apologize unreservedly for this mistake, he said in a statement last week. This was my error, something I should have checked when I first nominated for pre-selection in 2006. Senator Loveland was born in Palmerston North in New Zealand and left the country with his family when he was 3. The party's co-deputy leader was naturalized as a teenager in Australia, and had been in the Senate since 2007. The federal court also declared him a bankrupt, which would also have disqualified him from sitting in Parliament. Elected July 2016, it found the South Australian indirectly benefited from a government lease arrangement on his Adelaide electorate office, in breach of the Constitution. Greens leader Richard Di Natale Centre was gutted by the announcement, saying Parliament and the nation were worse off. Senator Loveland right and Senator Waters left have both been forced to resign. Larissa has unfinished business and I know she won't back away from it, be it inside or outside the Parliament, Senator Di Natale tweeted. Senator Larissa Waters is pictured during a vote on GST on tampons in the Senate chamber at Parliament House in Canberra last month. Senator Waters made international headlines last month after becoming the first mother to breastfeed the baby in Parliament. He settled in Australia not long before his 9th birthday, before being naturalized when he was in his mid-teens. I assumed that was the end of my New Zealand citizenship, he said. It is entirely my responsibility. It wasn't the way I was hoping to go. Out. 2 other Green senators, Peter Whish-Wilson and Nick McKim, were also born overseas, in Singapore and the UK respectively. Senator Di Natale has been assured they are both eligible to sit in Parliament. Senator Waters made international headlines last month after becoming the first mother to breastfeed the baby in Parliament. It is with great shock and sadness that I have discovered that I hold dual citizenship of Australia and Canada, as people would know after the recent departure of my dear friend and former colleague Scott Loveland. Section 44 of the Australian Constitution means I cannot hold office in the federal parliament. I left Canada as a baby, born to Australian parents, studying and working briefly in Canada before they returned home. I have lived my life thinking that as a baby I was naturalized to be Australian and only Australian, and my parents told me that I had until age 21 to actively seek Canadian citizenship. At 21, I chose not to seek dual citizenship, and I have never even visited Canada since leaving at 11 months old. However, after Scott's shock discovery, I immediately sought legal advice, and was devastated to learn that because of 70-year-old Canadian laws I had been a dual citizen from birth. and that Canadian law changed a week after I was born and required me to have actively renounced Canadian citizenship I had not renounced since I was unaware that I was a dual citizen. Obviously this is something that I should have sought advice on when I first nominated for the Senate in 2007, and I take full responsibility for this grave mistake and oversight. I am deeply sorry for the impact that it will have. It is with a heavy heart that I am forced to resign as Senator for Queensland and co-deputy leader of the Australian Greens. Effective today, I apologize wholeheartedly to all those who have supported me and helped me to become a representative for the wonderful people of Queensland. Over the last 6 years I have been incredibly fortunate to be able to represent my values and speak for Queenslanders who want a fairer and cleaner world. There is no greater honor than to be entrusted with that responsibility, and I have discharged it to the best of my ability. With the support of many, the Queensland Greens have never been stronger. Despite today's events, Queensland will still have a Green voice in the federal parliament, and I am confident that we will continue to grow by electing some Greens MPs into our state parliament this coming election. From being the first woman to breastfeed in federal parliament, to being part of stopping the dumping of dredge spoil on the Great Barrier Reef, overturning cuts to domestic violence services, and keeping key environmental decision-making powers in federal hands, I have relished every moment to make positive change as a Green senator. But the challenges we face as a nation are still so great, and I will not be stepping away from them. I have spent my working life protecting the environment and helping the community have better say in decision-making, and that will not cease. We must stop the Tony Magrathea mine, and we must support women to be free from violence, sexism, and pay discrimination. While my future remains uncertain, I have more to contribute and will be talking with my party about what lies ahead. Whatever the outcome, I will always work for gender equality and to protect the environment. It has been an honor to work with my Greens colleagues in the Parliament and in the Queensland Party. They are the best of people, and I am devastated to leave them. My focus now is on working with the party to ensure Queenslanders still have a strong Green voice in the Senate, and working with our state candidates, members and supporters to elect Greens into the Queensland State Parliament. Despite my personal circumstances, I still have unshakable hope for our common future on this planet. Our movement is so much bigger than any one person, and we will win in the end. Farewell, dear friends.